welcome, and we'll go ahead and get kicked off with the Finance Committee meeting of January 13th, 2020. Good timing, Mel? We'll kick off the meeting at 6:04. So tonight, we're going to run through some additional budget presentations. We'll run through information technology, accountant, tax collector, treasurer, Board of Health, and Board of Selectmen budgets. So our first guest today is Ryan. Come on up. And Melanie, I didn't know, did you bring your big file that you got last week?
No, I didn't
Okay.
have time to
That's fine.
go home and get anything.
There you go.
I have
Thank
individual
you.
printouts if people needed to,
Okay.
just my budget.
And we've got it, and actually, I gave them a copy of the
Okay.
spreadsheet that we went over too, because it had great information on it, I thought.
Take your print, which is good.
Green pen.
If you want to lose a copy. If not, I'll just leave them right there. Okay. So this is Ryan's first time at the table?
I did this last year.
You did? Oh,
I did do
did
this
you?
last year. I did it like, I don't know, 3 weeks after being here, or something like that.
So now you're no pro.
Yeah, now I know what I'm doing.
Excellent. All right, why don't you go ahead and walk us through?
Great. So my budget is very similar to last year. It's just in a little different format. I tried to make it a little bit more granular in my presentation to actually show you what we're spending the money on rather than just having an overall IT line that really didn't make sense if you had questions. So if you're looking through my computer equipment and professional service account number 5595, this is my broken down budget by services. Things like the town website, our migration to 365, our renewal costs, our managed service contracts with the school, public safety, and our servers. Remote desktop software, which is a new purchase for this year, that I purchased this year. It allows me to remote into people's desktops to do management service, so if people are having problems and I'm not on site, I'm able to help them. As well as the new line for the town-wide GIS system. The town's looking to move to People's GIS as a full GIS program for all departments. I'm happy to report that we actually received a grant for $70,000 to implement this.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
It's
wonderful.
great. Unfortunately, it doesn't cover our reoccurring costs of it. So that $44,000 is our cost moving forward for our People's GIS, our annual cost. One additional new line that I have too is the migration to Sophos Central. It's a combination of endpoint protection, antivirus, and ransomware protection. I really wasn't satisfied with the current software that we have implemented, so this would be a migration to a new product.
Huge deal today.
Yeah, it really is. So I did some research, and this is one of the top 3 on the market right now. It's cloud controlled, so I can actually control devices that move off-site too. It does some additional things as well that we don't really need to implement right now, but I may be looking to do moving forward. Other than that, I have my own salary line. Like I said, it's a guesstimated number. I don't know what Hanson's health insurance cost increase are going to be. I did it based off my contractual increase in my salary.
So I think it's important for the committee to know too that you're paid out of Hanson,
Correct.
and they send us kind of one bill.
Yes.
So all of your expenses are in this one line item, so insurance isn't living in another GL account.
Other than that, I mean, it's very similar to last year.
The company I work with, I do auditing, but we have an IT audit division, and so we get schooled as best as they can to like relate to our clients, and the stories they tell are scary. So I'm just curious, like, does this, like, Sophos, does this cover, like, they do vulnerability studies and stuff like that? Does this cover that sort of thing?
No, it will give us some vulnerability reporting built into the back end of it. I have multiple avenues to see what our vulnerability is, either through our firewall or through a product like this. This doesn't actually include any actual vulnerability studies. Like a company will not. This won't cover like a company coming in and doing like vulnerability scan. What I would like to do as part of our 365 migration, once we have it completely implemented, is do another staff training. I know it's probably been a while since people have done anything with phishing and things. Yeah,
Stuff like
exactly.
that.
I will say most people that I've come across in this town, if anything looks out of line, they tend to forward it to me right away. In most cases, it tends to be a real email. I'm not sure, it's usually advertising, things like
Right.
that. But yeah, it's moving forward. Because we're moving to the new platform, I think it makes sense to kind of freshen everyone up in a vulnerability for phishing.
And only because you guys just had that conversation, and I'm thinking about what my company does. I know in some of the other departments, they're utilizing, I believe in police and fire specifically, they're utilizing some new compliance training software services. Is that something that we may potentially think about rolling out when we have to start thinking about
No, but I-
organizational-wide type trainings? IT comes to mind, because I think of HIPAA all the time, OSHA, as we think of
Well, we
things
talk
like
about
that.
the town in Michigan that just got defrauded out of $1 million. That was done by computer.
Yes.
There was a town of
We do.
Sandwich maybe 10 years ago. Russia got into their bank accounts. They
Yep.
were tracking keystrokes on the computer, and luckily the treasurer did timely reconciliations and caught it
Yeah.
in time to find a way to get it back.
We do a ton in banking as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you do.
Use some different things, like one's called KNOWBE4, KNOWBE, with a 4 number.
We're starting. It's like a button in your email. Is that the one?
No, that's an actual so like our head of information security assigns modules to each employee based on their role within the company.
Yeah.
So you might get, a phishing one or a malware one or cyber threats or ransomware, and you have to take them and it tracks and audits who does them, so you have that auditing report and everything.
Yeah.
The division at my firm runs things like that too, like they run phishing campaigns for companies and stuff like that. So if you ever need to bounce ideas off it or anything, I have all their contact information, obviously, but
Great. I appreciate that.
scary, like everything
Yeah,
that's out
this
there.
is an area you can't train enough
Yeah,
on, and
exactly.
it needs to, unfortunately, it needs to be constant.
I agree with
You got professionals, and I'm, sorry to say, I actually inadvertently clicked on something I wasn't supposed to, and like the nanosecond I did it, I instantly knew, but it was
Yeah,
just, sometimes you
right.
just get caught up in what you're doing.
And then you have
you
to
know.
make that phone call to tell somebody that you just clicked on that.
I'm the first one to go, whoops. Yeah, but, interesting. Quick question for you, and we had talked a little bit about this. The school managed services, and I know you had talked about, is there a not possibility that that potentially is gonna still get moved over to the school budget, or?
We took it out of Ryan's budget, right?
No, it's under school managed services. It's still under there. The salary lines for these school ITs have been taken out of my lines.
Yeah,
That
okay.
57.
Yeah, that 57,711.60 is still under my budget currently.
Yeah, I'm meeting with them tomorrow to
Yeah,
talk
we'll have to
about
make
that.
sure
so-
that
So
it's
that-
not in there.
Okay, so that still might be removed. Okay.
They definitely still have.
I like the detail on the breakout. I think that's super helpful. And I know there was some shifting from other budgets too, this year too, so I know that there's some changes. Any? Go ahead.
Weren't some of the software costs like going to be centrally budgeted within this budget?
Yes, the People's GIS.
That's just the People's GIS?
Yes.
Okay.
The way we,
All that in the Microsoft 365.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the way I designed this budget as far as software goes is if it hit multiple departments, I would bring it under my line, but if it was a standalone within a department or two, then we would leave it in, like, for example, the police CAD system. Police and fire are the only two departments that use that system. So I thought it made sense to leave it under their
it there.
lines.
Okay.
But if it was like a town-wide use or the majority of the departments, we moved it under my line, one line.
Okay. And the reduction in the IT technician, is that just to reflect actual spend?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is the reduction of the salaries for the, oh, yeah, sorry, no, the IT technicians, that is my salary line,
Oh, okay.
yes. Yeah, moving forward, that would, yeah.
And I think to your point, Dan, the GIS, one of the things we need to just double check when we're going through the budgets is to make sure that those line items, because they went to Ryan's, that they come out of the other departments, which was Planning.
Which we went over
Building and
last week, and
planning.
it did come up.
Okay.
Yes.
Just building and planning, was something
Yeah,
else too?
the number was smaller because originally it was only under building and assessors.
Assessor, I
The
was gonna say,
assessors
yep.
had $3,000 too.
Yep.
So last year, the total was $8,000 total across 2 departments. Because we're planning to implement it town-wide, it's the 44,000 reflects the total number now.
Okay,
And Paula took it out of hers as well.
okay, great. And so really, the cost is much higher than that, but you're offsetting the 70,000.
No, the $70,000 is the implementation cost.
Okay.
Moving forward, our yearly annual cost will be $44,000.
Nice. We have any other questions?
None for me.
Nope, good.
Excellent, good, wonderful, thank you
Thank
very
you. Thank you.
much. Make that, we're ahead of schedule already. Phyllis is next, but she should be up any second.
You do notes for next meeting, are you gonna be able to get them home? Crystal's gonna cover next Tuesday, I won't be able to make it, so she's gonna do notes as long as she can make it to that one.
Perfect.
If she can't for some reason, I can do it.
Thank you.
Yep.
You wanna go get her?
I hear voices. Phyllis? Think- yeah, Phyllis. Thought I heard her voice.
Who are we meeting with next week? The police and fire next week.
It is.
Well, it's really,
Come on. I have to look back, because I
it's
wanna
split
see how
between
detailed
Hanson
your
and us,
notes
so we
usually
just,
were.
Oh,
he just put it in
Are
there.
you
so we
serious?
just-
Patience.
He was being
like a-
modest.
it's like an owner's manual.
Takes it one after the other.
I've been
For,
taking
for
notes.
police and fire
Hanson,
specifically?
Both sharing him, is
Yeah.
a one-man show.
I wasn't just gonna
Gets
look
hit
at
by a
those, I
bus,
was
I'm
gonna
in
look at
trouble.
all.
Okay.
So,
But
as soon as Hanson gets the new town administrator going, I'm gonna talk to him about picking up a part-time break-fix guy.
what time is that meeting, at 6?
Over time, so I could have eventually 2
I
full-time.
think it is.
Split
Yeah.
between the town and the
Bow, New
office.
Hampshire, so I have,
Oh.
it's
So
at
we're not
least
going
2
to-
hours,
Oh,
so
don't
I
even.
don't think that
Yeah.
I'll make it.
Yeah.
And work with Hanson.
And that's
to
on,
be
that's a Tuesday, right?
so
Tuesday, yeah.
I think we have the
software
next
can
2
manage
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
here,
21st, 28th,
So that he can.
and then we don't
be more efficient.
have another one till the schools.
So he can have him stop learning and, you
Yeah,
know,
put 'em
got
on.
different phones.
You all met with the schools for the first time, right?
Yeah, and I think actually I'm gonna be able to make it, we're meeting again, Brian, tomorrow at noon for the schools again? I think I should be able to make it.
Okay, well, we're there. I don't know how much we're gonna get done anymore, but I think we're meeting a little too often, but I don't wanna necessarily shut down the communication, so.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi. Come on up. Will you drag the chair back? Drag a chair up.
At the end of the meeting, I just have a question for them about the schools.
Okay. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Everybody had nice holidays?
Yes.
Busy, yes.
I know, I'm like, so
They're
glad it's
blur.
over.
I know, me too. January 1st couldn't come fast enough. All right, so I gave everybody a copy of Phyllis's spreadsheet in the packet I handed out, so feel free. Take it away.
Well, I'm going to retire June 30th, 2021. So I have some contractual buyouts.
Mm-hmm.
So what I forgot was the additional 7.5 days I would earn between January to June. So that's why I had to change my budget.
Okay.
'Cause that's in my budget, not in the article for the sick time buyout. So, the only other thing, difference was, my assistant put in for her, special longevity, which is in, the contract for the, wage and personnel, for an additional 5% for 3 years.
So that means she's planning her retirement coming up?
Within the
Not
next 3 years.
necessarily.
No, you can do it before?
Under the personal bylaw, it says you could take it in the last 3 years of your employment, and you must retire at the end of the 3 years, so she needs to go
I
back and
think
check
that's the
that.
clerical. I don't think that's.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it was for all the contracts, they were the
No.
same?
No,
No?
they never changed the personnel bylaw. In fact, it,
We probably should.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have it, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. So she does not have a plan to retire, she's just putting in for the longevity?
she did not say, she
Okay.
just said she wanted to have her 5%.
Okay.
So I had to put that in because that's contractual. The rest of it, I mean, my operating budget, I left the same.
So Phyllis, I think we should probably move the retirement, the buyout, to the article. So
Well,
how
that
much should I-
buyout's not in there. The sick time buyout is not,
It can be, in the article,
with the 7.5 days.
yeah.
Oh, well, okay, I can do that.
So let's calculate that,
I
move
think
it from
that's
your budget.
originally what I did,
Yeah,
and then I'm like, no, that's supposed to be in the budget. The actual buyout itself is for an article that goes on.
correct. Well, I'm
So-
gonna put the article in, I'm gonna put the fire department and Dottie and you and everybody in one big ball and put it in there,
Okay.
so that it doesn't keep messing up the budgets.
So if you want that, I can take that,
So is
Okay.
that
the additional 7.5 days that will be left over.
Is that the vacation buyback or?
No.
Which one?
We're allowed to buy back a week's
Oh,
vacation.
sorry, just which line is it?
I think it's
The-
a sick time buyback. It should be probably less, it will be less than that.
So right now it's the 5.
It'd be
okay.
like 7.5 days. I can
Okay.
recalculate that and send that to
Is
you.
it the second line too that says year 2 of special longevity, the 4,200?
No, that's my special longevity before
Okay.
I retire.
Okay.
At 10 years, you are able to put in for your special longevity. And that started actually it just started this November.
Okay.
That's when I hit 10 years, and I will be retiring as of the 2021, June 30th.
Okay. Is that something that we would put in an article as well, Brian? The special longevities, or should
No,
those
'cause
be?
No,
that
that is
leaves-
department
That's-
assignable.
okay.
And that's 3 years' worth, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then the other assistance is the 1250 is the longevity.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, so you're gonna probably remove
And then
that.
you have
Okay.
regular longevity, and then the vacation buyback.
Okay.
And I believe she put in for a week, and I always put in for a week.
Okay. Okay, so the only line item that we're gonna adjust is that sick leave buyback line
Yes.
item. Okay, that will get adjusted. Okay. Other than that, are there any questions?
None here.
I mean, pretty simple.
Pretty
Mine's just contractual.
Yeah,
So the operating budget mine actually is very small.
yes, it is. Yep. Under $3,000.
Very
I would say
small,
very
yeah.
small. Good. All right, no other questions? We probably should have scheduled these a little tighter. If we knew Phyllis.
We can
if we
do
knew-
mine if you want.
Actually, we were gonna come
we
up
could.
together, and
Oh.
Brian comes in, he goes, oh, I'm really sorry, but I finished early. And I'm like, "Well, you're not supposed to." So she's getting ready to come up, so I can go down and tell her, in fact.
Okay.
You want to do that, or yours is probably going to take longer?
That's gonna take a long time.
Yeah, yours is going to take a long time. Yeah, well, let's do that, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Grab her. That'd be perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Phyllis.
I'll send up that change.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Do you want me to ask a schools question while we're waiting?
Sure.
Sure. So I noticed on their posted positions, they had a couple positions posted for anticipated openings or the next school year.
Okay.
But then when I looked at the agenda for the school committee at the last meeting, I didn't see any teacher-related retirements announced. I know Ray Ponte's retiring, so there's a music teacher, but there's like a high school math and physics teacher, there's a health and PE teacher, and I was just curious if these were adds to staff or
Okay.
replacements.
All right, yeah, we'll go through that with them tomorrow, because I know when they gave us a, rough idea, but hadn't gone through.
You didn't have to
down
run.
so far.
She comes down, they're waiting for you. I'm like, oh, it's fast.
I know, well,
Yep, that was it. I just-
Phyllis did the speed round.
How are you?
Good. And well, now we'll just wait one second, because
Yeah.
Brian just walked out real quick. Great.
There was like a PE and health.
There was a PE health grades 5 through 12, and then a
Yeah.
combined math and physics teacher grades 8 through 12.
They've already announced most retirements, right?
She always
think-
announces them in the school committee agendas or meeting
Yeah.
minutes, and I haven't, the only one I've seen is Ray Ponte.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't heard any, and neither have we heard any.
Okay.
if there was,
Ray is the only nice one.
and there was a retirement mentioned in the last meeting, but it was an administrative assistant at the high school, I think,
Great.
so.
Just while we're waiting, I did not print out Melissa's Excel spreadsheet. I figured we'd just use the book. That might be easier, because she got a couple sections.
Yeah. Page 5. I'll put that in.
I might open it just to make notes, though. Why is this page
15.
Did you say page 5 and 15?
Yeah. And then that is all, and that is what it is. They tell us how much we're paying and we pay it.
Okay, we're good? All right, why don't you go ahead and walk us through?
Okay, as far as the budget goes, it's the three sections for the treasurer's office, our department budget, the benefits and services on page 15, and then the debt service, which is the entire back of the book. The salaries did go down. You'll see an overall amount of 3.41. With the increase in the online bank payments, as well as the lockbox utilization, this town is amazing. There's no lines at the treasurer's office anymore at tax day, or smaller. So we actually are almost overstaffed. We have about a half-time person whose main job is to watch the window. That's her full-time job, and currently, between the workload in the office and all the, as I say, the extra, the online services of that the residents take advantage of, we actually are cutting one of our positions to a half, as opposed to a full-time position. So that's, between that and the contractual, and then everything else is contractual in the office for that.
Well, we don't like to see staff cut
I know.
necessarily, but kudos for
But when you-
for taking the right steps.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you're always told, don't cut a position because you'll never get it back, but you can't
just have someone there not really being utilized, so. That's the explanation for that position, and pretty much everything else is staying on cue for the office. We are going to have we are planning to have an auction, second auction this year, so we probably have some professional service expenses this year that we didn't have last year.
This will be on
But we're
land-
budgeted for
land
it.
again?
The Hanson land. Right, so. Are there questions about this section, or?
So is that what were you anticipating, in 19, that's why there was the big amount unexpended? Well, that was
Right,
the-
well, see, you never know, the 15,000 professional tax title service section is always budgeted for, but you don't know what kind of year you're gonna have. You may have to go to land court often, so that's where that other line comes in. Last year was a little less, a few less cases, plus, again, not the Hanson land, but we do have it coming up this year, so
Okay.
did choose to have the same budget as the year before.
What's the one above that, the professional services financial?
That will be bank services, any bank services we pay for, and we can still use that for the tax title, as well as we're gonna be having, like, there's a brownfield that cleanup. We can use that line for that as well, those types of services.
So you expect like the auction expenses will come into this line too? When you
Yes,
have it?
because,
It
you
will
know-
be more than the 15,000?
I'm not positive.
So just basically, what does that $15,000 cover?
Tax title, well, every tax title we have,
So,
we have a lawyer,
Right.
Laura Brown.
Yep.
And her services are generally,
so her services including.
she'll also she'll now have extra services this year with the auction.
So that would be including filing fees, including her professional
Yeah, no,
services? All of that stuff is included in that one line item?
Yes.
So the estimate of the 46,000,
Mhm.
that's, I'm sorry, you said bank service fees,
Bank
right?
service fees, and
Which
then
were
above, other professional
above and
services we
beyond.
can't.
So you really
again-
don't have a way to, you can't look at a historic trend or anything
Um,
there because you don't have similar
Well,
data?
every year it can be different.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so
you know,
that's tough.
It is.
Do you know where it's at this year? As of now? Forget if we
I
talked about
just
it.
ran my report, and I think I left it on my printer, my management report. I did not bring it up. Sorry.
That's okay.
I might be able
I don't expect, but we hope not to be borrowing this year, because if we also have any borrowing, those services, those
Those would run in there?
those can run up to $50,000 for the expenses. And we will eventually have to take our, when we may take our short-term borrowing and turn it into a
Mhm.
borrowing, or we have to look at the budget and see what we're gonna be able to pay it right off,
Mhm.
or we're gonna have to turn it into a full bond. And can be expensive.
I just pulled up the management report.
Oh, thank you.
1846 as of
So it's
1/6.
already well above what 19 was? 19 was 5,000.
Right. So do we know?
You said it was 18,000,
1800, no,
right?
1800.
Oh, 1800, oh,
Oh,
okay.
1800.
1846.
Okay.
So, so we're not paying a ton of bank fees then?
No.
No.
And if one auction has
Lockbox.
already happened, or?
2 years ago.
Okay.
In
So
December
where was
of
it paid for 2
18.
years ago, do we know? Because there was nothing paid out of
Well, there were
the tax
there were a
title
lot of
line, and there
fees
was
for Laura Brown.
5,700. Would that have been 18 2 years ago? Is that what you mean?
Fiscal 18.
Okay, so we don't have that on here.
It's been consistently budgeted at 46.
So how does 5313 tie into what we were just talking about in professional services? Is the 15,000?
Right now, guaranteed, the 5313, well, it's not guaranteed, we don't know the amount. The more lockbox utilization, the higher the fees are. As people use the lockbox, that's that fee. The other professional.
5313 is talking about professional services tax title, $17,000. It says legal registry and land court fees. How does
Oh, I'm
that-
sorry, I thought you were talking about the 5,000
Sorry,
spent in
no,
the prior.
sorry, I'm lying.
Yeah, that we
Just
were.
going by line item, sorry. So, I guess what I'm asking is, what's that 17? Is the $15,000 to Laura just a retainer strictly for her work?
That's for the everyday tax title, the basic tax title work, but
When
that
you
we-
say the everyday, what does that
our,
mean?
annually, we do our tax title.
Right, so,
And then she has to, depending on how many land court cases are filed, depending on the title searches, how expensive they are.
okay,
There's a minimum amount of 15,000 budgeted.
okay, and then what's the 17?
What item are you looking at?
5313, professional services tax title?
I think it's just, it's 17, not 15,000.
Well, there's
No, it's
two.
a separate
There's-
line item.
Yeah,
17.
Oh, down,
there's 5304 and
Yep.
5313.
The line right above office supplies.
And then it's here too.
Right. So you had this, it's not in twice. One's the
I didn't
land
put that
title.
in.
This one's the actual sale of the, what do I call that? The Hanson Land Trust. And the other one's routine, right?
Right.
So-
And they've been budgeting for the additional,
Right.
waiting for the
So one is normal.
finance.
One
And the other, one is normal, the other one's exceptional. Because we have the land auction for Hanson Land.
So the 15 is the exceptional?
I'm saying the 17 is the exceptional, but either
'Cause I'm-
way.
Which I could see, like, then having normal versus exceptional, but then I guess I go back to the 46,000 that something seems high.
Because that's a big amount being unexpended.
Right.
Year after year after year.
And I thought maybe it was that high because that's where the auction expenses will run through, but if the auction expenses are running through the $17,000 line, then that doesn't make sense anymore. We might just be missing
So,
an expense.
just on the detail in the spreadsheet I'm looking at, the 15 at the bottom is legal,
This
And
was
that's been like
unexpended.
that.
and the other
And
one
the
is
other one
legal
says-
registry land court
Budgeted that
fees,
significantly.
which is the 17,000.
It depends on the
imagine
year,
how
you have to
that
go back to historical
up to that.
reports.
Registry
Last
fees,
year it was
I agree,
just
yeah,
Century
17,000
that
seems
they-
very
And then like the
lofty.
SAM registrations and any, oh no, she put that in the wrong account, so she budgeted Century. The 17,000 was Laura,
Yeah.
Plymouth County.
Expenditure, so on that $17,000 line item, we've already expended 13,000 of that.
About on the $15,000?
On the 15,
That's,
we have expended 1,694,
Right, because we haven't started it.
yeah.
And then 1,800 on the 46.
The 15 is the extraordinary and the 17 is the normal.
Yeah.
So I guess the question might be on the the line item 5306 that's budgeted for the $46,000, is that truly what's needed, or is that, since it's had 2 consecutive years of quite a large unexpended amount?
Is it one of those safety net budgets?
Too much for some.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
What's being billed to it now?
County registry of deeds, any, like the bond, all the bond expenses.
So that would be for bond counsel.
Hilltop security, bond counsel,
Yeah.
So in a year that we do borrowing, it would be higher, right?
right, but we don't know if we're, like today,
Right.
we're still in discussion whether we're gonna pay off a bond, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, the temporary bond,
Yeah,
or are we gonna
make it a permanent.
make it because it's short-term debt right now.
Mhm.
If we roll it to regular debt, I checked with Hilltop, and it's gonna be, she said about 40,000 in fees. It's very expensive, so I'm hoping we can just pay it off and not do that part.
Let's do a little more work on the 46.4 and get back to you. So we'll give you historically what we spent it on and what we forecast.
Yeah, if with what you just said, if we do change that to a long-term note. and
No, that's
it's-
down the end of the hall.
That it would be,
But we aren't trying to
the
conserve money.
46 is reasonable.
Pay it because it's
Right,
less
no, I
than-
know, yeah, I get you.
The other question I'd have tied to the bank fees is so the lockbox, is that through Unibank or?
Century.
Century
Is our
Bank.
lockbox processor.
Do they allow offsetting of the lockbox fees through the earnings credit that's earned on the checking account?
The fees are between anywhere from $250 to $400
A month.
on a monthly basis, depending on, obviously, it's around the 1st of February and May and August and so on. We are actually looking at another processor that, it's utilized by a lot of the towns, and it's very user-friendly, and the bank is very generous with waiving fees.
Yeah.
So, I know it doesn't at $5,000 or what have you, but if we don't get spent $5,000.
Right, I think that was the point I was gonna make. I
Right.
think there are banks out there where we
They
could
do
get this-
technically have a fee, but we're working on not having a fee.
Right. I'm in banking, so if I can help in any way, I'd be
Yeah,
happy to help.
I did that for way too many years.
What's your expectation this year with regard to postage? That was also a large
Postage?
turnback.
Yeah, I'm about to fill the machine. I have about 15,000 to put in right now. With an election or any mailings, it depends on honestly, nobody else budgets for postage. It's just lump sum put into the system every year, so we don't do it by department here. It's just fill the machine. So I would need to know if other departments are going to be doing any mass mailings, anything larger than normal. Or, this year it's,
Okay, so that number controls basically the entire.
that is the entire town's postage. Fire department comes up and uses that, and DPW and everyone uses that one machine, so it's.
So you can see which department spent which.
Yep.
Because they
Yeah,
have to put in their.
but we don't
postage
put it
on
out
the
to
meter.
each
But we
department.
don't
But you don't
sub-
allocate it?
No, it's just town postage.
But to your point, from a planning perspective,
It's crazy.
that can be a little
Yeah.
challenging.
Sure.
That means you have to kind of be in charge of figuring out what everybody's plan is.
Right. The machine does it, and we can have a report.
Yep.
It's just we don't, I've worked in this is my 3rd time. It was done both ways. In one town, each month I sent out the postage to the station, hit their accounts, and everybody budgeted. But it still was controlled in the treasurer's office.
Yeah.
And then in Stoughton, it was just as it is here. We just budgeted for X dollars and
Do we see mailings down? Are we doing less mailings? No, we're still loving paper.
Tax bills still go out by US mail. It's
Yep.
an option that you have to have it delivered by email, but I think maybe less than 10 go out by
yeah,
email.
it's not a lot.
I don't know about
Have
you,
we
but I
done
still
any
like.
campaigns to
Yeah, how
promote
to-
that service? I didn't even
I
know
don't
that
know.
that was
Yeah,
available.
'cause I would take
I'm not
mine
sure,
to my
I don't know if it would be as easily embraced, because, you know, that tax bill coming in the mail is.
Everybody looks forward to that.
But I mean, anyone who, like, I get one and mine's escrowed, so I don't even,
I throw mine away.
I don't look
before
at it really-
open
I mean, I
Well,
look at it,
the-
but then.
By law, we have to send it.
Right.
out.
Right,
but
but what
if
I'm
it could
saying
be
is I would
emailed,
send up, I'd sign up for email because
Me too.
I don't
That
have
would
to
be
pay
a
it.
Danny Berman.
Let me check into.
Same
how
with the
low
water.
level that is.
I was telling Melissa that I get my water bill and I never, for some reason, know where I put it. So I email the treasurer, like,
I would like an
almost
option
twice a
for
year,
auto pay.
and say, what's my water
On
bill?
the water bill, I'd like auto pay available, but we don't have that. But
I
auto
think
pay,
even
like
just
a-
the
like on
email
water
would
bill
be,
great.
to get the email of the bill
Right.
rather than a paper bill.
Right now, I know they can send,
Nice.
because it's, they can send a reminder that your bill is out, but we don't give you a choice on the water bill.
Now, if you do pay online and you get your bill, the day you get your bill, you don't have to pay it that day, but you can set it up to pay it
To
a certain
auto-pay,
date
right.
on Unipay.
But that, because what I usually do is I'll get my bill, I do it at, at my computer's at work, so I'm like, put my bill there to bring it to work, to
Mhm.
then pay it, and if it doesn't make it to the pocketbook, and then to the office, and then all of
Joe
a sudden
said-
it's gone.
Joe said something the other times, about why don't we just have a.
Yeah, one bill
account?
for all.
I haven't got it out of my head yet, that we can't, or we haven't been able to do that because of the laws are somewhat antiquated. But I really like that idea, to be able to log into your town account, see what's due, pay it, put it on auto pay if you want to. So that may be coming, but it's not here yet. But
Yeah.
ever since he said that, I haven't got it out of my head.
Mm.
Yeah, because excise, same thing. It'd be
Right.
nice
Dog
if
license, everything.
you could just get an email about it and then go on and pay it. Or at least have the option to choose it to be emailed rather than mailed.
Right.
Okay, so we'll get some feedback back on the other expenses, professional services, financial on this page. Any final questions on this page? Otherwise, we'll move to the next one, which is, what'd you say, page 15, I think?
I believe it's 15. Yes. As far as employee benefits go, health insurance is always the question. This is definitely not the amount that's going to be needed. We don't know what the rates are. They aren't set until, they have two meetings in February, the GIC, one, I believe, the 6th, and one around the 23rd of February, to set the rates. What I do know is that this year alone, the GIC has lost 6,834 members. They lost 5 municipalities, which could very much affect our rate. It could drive our rates up based on, you have a pool of people. You have really good claim people, and then you have not so good claim people. And those really good claim people can pick and
read.
choose really
Yeah.
easily where they want to go for better rates and better costs. So then that leaves the other group of people. And I'm not saying we're in bad, or we're not bad. It's just, that's what's in your pool now, which the overall loss rate or expense could drive the rates up this year. They traditionally say, okay, let's just base it on a 10%. And then, like last year, I got the rates, updated the rates, decreased it. The other thing that can play a factor into the health insurance costs are a young employee base, which we have down the hill, and new
Family
new
members.
family members, and sometimes, husband and wife, they may not change their plans when they first get married. It's just as cheap to have two singles.
Yep.
But then when they have that little bundle of joy, now somebody's gonna have a family plan, you're not gonna pay, so they're gonna choose an insurance. That can, increase our cost alone. Also, the other thing is just, I did a lot of payroll this summer with, one of my staff was out on leave, and just in a matter of 6 weeks, we had 4 employees come in and have to sign up on our insurance, because they're, for whatever reason, their spouses lost their insurance. That was a lot, I thought, in a short period of time. So those are some of the factors that can really, change our insurance costs. Hopefully, the rates don't go up a lot this year. We'll know late February, beginning of March. And this will have to be revised at that point.
Have we ever considered, or is there an accounting that separates the actual healthcare expense for the town employees versus school employees?
We do have that. Yeah, we have
But it's
that.
all
Oh,
rolled
it's
into
all-
this line
yeah,
item?
Yeah.
We separated
One.
on the Form 1 for accounting on the school costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when,
Like the
in
per
September,
pupil.
we make that form, and says, these are the costs that are assigned to the schools, and this is the cost.
These are the town
So you
costs.
know exactly what the cost of plowing the parking lots, for example,
Right.
et cetera.
And then, does the line, is townwide insurance falling under you as well?
Falls under me.
That's under you, okay.
How often are we looking at other health insurance options?
Well,
Often?
we're going to be looking at that this year. Actually, we're forming a committee right now, hopefully to meet next week for the first
Great.
time. Yeah, so, yeah.
So if that were to happen, that would potentially.
June of '21,
Right, we have
We
to.
would potentially know ahead of time
yes.
before finalizing the budget.
Yeah, we are stuck on the GIC until June of
June
'21.
of 21, yeah.
But we've hired a consulting firm to come in and work with us to identify some cost savings, hopefully, to identify our loss ratio and determine whether we can shop this and get a better rate. The advantage of going into the GIC is you didn't have to impact bargain it. The disadvantage of coming out is every union has to impact bargain it. So I think it's easy when you're getting out and you're saving money. It might be hard, but
Yeah.
every union has to pass on it because you're changing the working
Yeah.
working conditions. So it takes a long time.
Mhm. Okay.
So will the health insurance number somewhat be revised after those meetings take place in February? And
Oh,
you-
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
This was based on the number of people we have in each of our plans, family, individual, and the current rates, and then a 10%. I mean, we don't know. It's not gonna be 10%. I mean, if it is, we'll all be looking at our spouse's insurance. But yeah, so, it'll definitely be changed. That was, when I came in last year, it was just 2 weeks before my first
Yeah.
meeting, so.
Yeah.
That was the very first thing I did was update the rates.
Okay.
And it did go down, but we don't know yet.
And county retirement, that's right from the
That's a bill,
assessment, right?
yeah,
So you
that's, I
already
already
know
have the
that one.
assessment, yeah. On retirement, as they tell us.
Any other questions in that section?
None.
None? Okay. And then we don't really have to go over.
The debt service, I mean, we can look at it, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's, they tell us what our interest and our principal is on each line item, and we pay that. That's the very end.
It's like page 44, 45.
45, yep.
Right. debt, principal and then interest for each of those.
Okay. Anybody have any question on that? Excellent. All right. If, like I said, if you could just get back to us on that one question we had on that one line item, that'd be great.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next. I was like, she,
Moral support.
feel free to pull a chair up, so.
Save him from having to look back at you. would you?
Yeah.
You know who the
Well,
real
you're
brains
back.
is, but,
Yeah.
We don't have to make that public.
We're being recorded.
Edit that out, Zach, would you?
So do we have that as a separate page?
That's, I gave you
Got it,
the
yep.
separate
Yep.
spreadsheet that they sent on that one if you want to.
Thank you. You don't have too much going on in here either, do you?
No, not a lot. I think the things that we talked about at a meeting last Monday were the changes, obviously, to Bobby's contract, Robert Philbrick, a health agent. That's contractual, 3-year. He's taking a 555 under the personnel bylaws, so kind of stuck there. But the board did speak on, as well as with, not only with Sue and Bob, but also amongst ourselves about some areas we thought maybe there could be some decreases. After we spoke about it, Sue came up with a few areas you'll see under the health, Board of Health expenses that, based on a, I'd say, 3 to 5 year period, we felt we could see some decreases. So did do some things there. The only other expense that went up, and I'll answer any questions after I run through this little synopsis here, is the professional services. Previous year was 30,000. We're looking at 32,200. I guess we'll have to go to town meeting.
Yeah, it's
for that.
underfunded this year,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
underfunded. And the reason being is that's the landfill over in Bridgewater. I think we talk about each year that the testing has to be done by the state, so they're requiring some additional testing going forward, which will increase that area right there.
So you're already under on that
So
one.
on that, when we came in for the budget last year, we didn't have any proposals yet, and the
Right.
state required a biannual report this year that we're in now. So that brought that price up. So we'll go to town meeting, and we'll just transfer it within, we'll have money to transfer it,
Okay.
you know, within
Yeah.
budget. But we won't have any idea on that number until we get close to the end of this year, because when they do that inspection will tell us if we have to fix anything, or, so it won't be, we won't have to do that report again next year, so that couple $1,000 report won't be in there, but we might have to fix some Ts, or, so we'll keep it level funded from that 32 that they quoted us for this year, just so we have, you know, a couple $1,000s in there in case something has to be fixed.
Okay. Just jumping back up on the health inspector salary line, so you included the 555 in that,
We did.
as opposed to breaking it out, okay?
Yep.
Do we typically want to see that broken out?
6 of 1.
Yeah, I mean, it is,
If you want it broken out, it will be
it's broken out on most of the other budgets,
We'll break it up.
so we'll maybe move that into its own line. Yeah, now that you've gotten rid of the other half of your budget, it's a little simpler.
It
Yes,
is, yeah.
yes, yes.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks, we had a lot of fun with
Yeah.
that last year.
Yes.
So you just basically cut down some other line items?
Yeah.
Just trying to,
Just trying to keep
Trim
it
it
closer
down.
to the 2, that it was up over 3 with the 555, so. Obviously, that means in 3 years, you know,
You're gonna need a
well,
new
we'll
agent.
plan on retiring and we'll need a new agent, hopefully, maybe start lower, I don't know what agents get paid these days, but.
Yeah. So
But,
in that contract, the 555 does require a retirement.
and, does it say that under the personnel bylaws? I don't think,
Under the personal bylaws, no.
It does
but under
not, yeah.
collective bargaining, yes.
yeah, so,
You would be covered by that.
right, he's not, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, but I think he fully intends, he's 65 this year, I think he's, he's looking at his last three, so.
Right.
He's got other things to do.
He does, yes, he does.
He's- Some cats he's got to take care of.
Hey, it's good work.
That is good work, absolutely. We did want to make a note that we have raised one of our fees after a few years of not really doing any increases or any changes. We did go through some permitting and some fees, and we looked at it's almost about a 75% increase in some of those fees that we have going
No,
forward.
75% of the permits were increased.
Just the permits? How about the
Yeah,
other?
that's 75%
How about the
increase itself.
tobacco and all that stuff too? That's probably falls into that same
Yeah, that we
category.
increased last year, but yeah,
Right.
that went up, over 100%.
Right.
But 75% of the permits were increased.
Yeah, so but we're looking at, not a lot of money, but at least some sort of increase going forward this coming year. And
Any idea what that would bring in?
Generate?
Revenue
Um,
guesstimate?
Well, so far for this fiscal year that we're in right now, we've brought in $38,450. Halfway through, that was, that only includes the small increase to food service. So we won't get any more food services in unless some random restaurant opens, but the perk test went up by $50, and we had 53 perk tests the first half of the year, so we can anticipate, I would say at least another 30 or 40. And then disposal works, permits stayed the same, because we did a little survey of surrounding towns, we were already a little high on those, but we have 3 or 4 new subdivisions coming in that are all gonna need new septic systems, so you're probably talking a good amount of money coming in there. And then we added a new fee, Title V inspection. Most towns require a fee, like a $20 fee to drop off the inspection because we review them, so we started a new $25 fee with those. And we can get anywhere from 20 to a couple hundred of those a year, so that's a brand new fee that's starting,
Oh,
so
good.
that will bring in some money. And apparently we're working on raising our violation fees. We've been doing some homework on our outdated violation fees. Right now, they're $50 per violation. After some homework, I found out it can only go to $300 per violation, but that's, still a pretty good
What types of
increase.
violations?
We just had a couple recent.
yes, so working without permits, things of that nature, we had to file our first one since, geez, I can't remember.
A
the
while.
last time. Yeah, with one of the tattoo shops in town that hadn't filed their permit in a timely fashion. We hope not to
Yeah.
have to use those, but got to at least step on them a little bit more so in the past. I mean, for me, the soup and nuts is of everything that we do. Obviously, Sue handles a good percentage of it. What I hope to see is, this wastewater treatment plant start to really come to the forefront. Cumberland's is signed on, me and John and Roy Gardner, who formed the advisory council for the selectmen. Just signed their application. We were hoping that it would be a new building, and something of that phase, but it looks like it would be more just of a reface of what they have currently. But another hookup at least gives us, another opportunity to continue working in that general area. We're also going to open the conversation with them to negotiate putting a pipe through the property when they start doing some work at the facility to try to get out to Spring Street. So, because it'd be a lot of money, somewhere in the hundreds of thousands to go down 18 if there was a phase 2. I mean, I probably won't be around to see it, but if somebody is, they, would have to go all the way around Route 18 currently down Spring Street, and that would be a lot of money. So our thoughts are at least have the line feasible or ready to go for a potential second phase if that comes down.
And is
the
Cumberland's
line.
the only one signed on?
CVS, well, originally, obviously, when they opened up, but yeah, CVS right now, we met with all of, we sent letters to all of the potential owners on Route 18, because it's really just that short corridor from Carriage Crossing all the way up to CVS, and they all reached out to us. old card shop that now electrician owns there. He came out, plumber, excuse me, he met with us. Jeff Dewhurst had a meeting with us, and Carriage Crossing. But it's expensive. It's, super expensive because it's such a high commodity and we have such a low amount of area to give to them, space to give to them at the plant. We feel that the charges, as did Weston Sampson when we put this together, needed to be inflated a bit, for what they're getting. So, there's some room for negotiation, but right now we just wanted to open the conversation and say it's here, but it doesn't mean it's gonna be here forever. There's land back behind Cumberland Farms that they owned, and obviously Jeff Dewhurst's, the old polo grounds, he's got some area there too. So, it was put in there obviously to help the town and the schools and the fire department and the central school at first phase, but our long-term goal was to, try to build something, have some area that we could at least have some potential in. And it's there, so it's just our job now to find ways to promote that and let them know. And the first thing we need to do is let the owners in those areas know. And we've done that, and we've met with them, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have I think a stronger push from.
Well, getting Cumberland's on farm, that's a.
Yeah, and they own,
that's a
they
step.
own the property. Like I
Yeah.
said, that's adjacent. It's a pretty good amount of area there, so. It's
They're
not
actually doing
just
both
open-
Cumberland Farms over.
Yeah, over in Washington Street.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
It's a nice commitment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
it,
think,
that does.
I think in the long term, it will certainly be a huge asset to the town. It's gonna take some work, maybe a little bit more work than, 3 guys one that has no idea what he's even talking about sometimes. But we'll figure it out, we'll get there.
Good.
Any questions? No? Anybody got that under the table? Nope.
You sure?
Okay, you got up
We
easy.
got the ladies scanned me out. I thought this was gonna be different.
I'll get some text later.
Was it 75% of the increase? Is
Yeah,
that what
right.
you missed?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I knew you were gonna pick that one number. He's like, she said 75%.
Did? Sounded good.
Sounds good. People are probably like, oh, probably.
They're like,
I know.
All 5 people are like, what is that number?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. Okay. Next,
Okay.
Board of
You're on.
Selectmen.
All right. Spreadsheets.
Let's see.
So we'll go to page 1.
Start at the very beginning.
Very good place to start.
Moderator's grossly underpaid.
Speaking as a former moderator.
I haven't actually.
So
heard
is the
from him,
finance
so
committee.
I was gonna say, they make a lot more than the finance committee.
So the increase, department head salaries, 1.46%, that is contractual. Clerical salaries is 7.75% because Lee is getting the step and the COLA this year, and Rebecca's only getting the COLA, so slightly larger. Longevity pay is the same. Sick leave buyback is up because the person who gets this money is more heavily compensated. And then the vacation buyback is up slightly because he's already used more vacation days this year, so I estimated it down. Now, so that I'm doing full disclosure, this sick leave buyback and vacation buyback is predominantly Ross, which is EBCAM. So it is reimbursed to the town, but in order for this to actually be paid, there has to be an appropriation. So it's coming through this budget. Then talk to the town accountant about moving it to its own, so it doesn't distort the operating cost of the selectman's office. So little bit of non-transparency there.
And which line item is his
The
salary?
vacation buyback and the sick leave buyback is predominantly his.
Okay, and his salaries in here as well?
No,
No.
his salary is not here. It's in the EBCAM operating budget. So why is one place and one another?
That's what I thought, okay. Yeah.
So training and education, I'm up in the budget because I have to go to procurement school this year, so that reflects the tuition payment for that. My certification's up and you have to go back for refresher. I don't know why, but okay. Advertising is up slightly, primarily because it will reflect, the selectman's office does all of the advertising for everybody. So if we're advertising for a police officer, or for a fireman, or clerical person, or DPW, it goes through this budget. We've stopped advertising in the newspaper. We are now only advertising online with monster.com and Indeed, and that seems to work out very well, actually. I'm not sure, hate to say this, but I'm not sure anybody reads the newspaper looking for a job anymore, so.
Very few people get the newspaper.
To look there.
Yeah. The office supplies reflect, you know, a little bit of an increase, because we're going through office supplies a little faster than we were. And I'm leaving the computer line level funded because I'm gonna have to replace, at least Rebecca's computer this coming year. So that'll be in there. The in-state travel and mileage, I put a modest amount of money in there. I don't expect to use that, but gotta have it in case the selectmen travel. Dues, memberships, and conferences, that's going up dramatically. That reflects the cost of attending MMA and the cost of going to the managers' conferences. I guess George didn't do much with the Managers Association, and I do a lot, so I think it's very valuable. Other charges, I simply just rounded it, so it's an even number, but it's a pure guess. And I put $1,500 into selectmen's expense, because I'm insisting that they go to selectmen's training, selectmen's conference, and the MMA. So, sort of in polite. Okay. So also, as part of the selectmen's budget, is the Southeast Regional Services, which is in there for $1. The town audit, let's take a look at the audit.
What page are we
Wait a
on?
minute, where you jumped, where did you go?
I'm gonna go in, I'm just gonna do a check to find where it is. It is unaudited, no. Guess that's not working. Picking up every page. I'm sort of all over the road. in
Oh,
my-
page 16.
How much?
16
16?
Other general, yeah.
of the general, yep.
Oh, thank you. The Southeast Regional Services General Expense, that's the regional planning. Then there's the audit expenses general at 65,000. I don't know, I'd have to defer to my auditors in my crowd here, of whether you think that's a legitimate number for a $55 million firm. I'm gonna put it out to bid anyway.
Yeah.
It's our 3 years is up, I wanna put it out and see what I get. It will cause a wrinkle. I level funded the billing services, and then the town hall copiers, I just rounded up a little bit because charging me, we're using it a little bit more, but it's the black and white copier and it's, you know, it's penny a piece, so I just moved it up a little bit. The CPO designation, that's a stipend that's paid to Phyllis as the chief procurement officer. I knocked that down because there used to be 2, there's only 1, so I knocked it down. Other government expenses I level funded. This is the deductible payment, police and fire medical general expense. We keep it in my budget, not quite sure why, but we do. The municipal hearings officer, I've zeroed. That is part of my job description, so it doesn't, you don't get paid extra for that. And then the next one, I've zeroed the Recreation Commission, but they haven't come in with a number yet, so they could come back with a number, so it's only $250. The Christmas parade, the request is for 5,000. They've been 4,000 forever, so that's an increase. Agriculture Commission, 250. Patriotic activities, which is mostly the veterans flags, it's $5,000. And that's what I've got in that budget. Next budget's town council, and
Brian, just before you move off
Sure.
of that, does at some point town hall copier and that stuff go over to IT? Is that, or is it?
I'm not, yes, I'm trying to get a handle on how many departments got copy machines and where they are, and how much we're paying for them, and so I've started that project to do the investigation of the billing. I found that we were getting billed for a copy machine we no longer have, so I got that money credited back, but I still wanna make sure that we drill down a little further, so.
I would think along the same lines that the computer expense should be rolled into Ryan's budget as well.
Yeah. Yep. So I think slowly but surely I wanna move all IT together.
Yeah.
IT includes copiers and telephone, as far as I'm
Telephones,
concerned.
right.
Cause
I
it's
agree.
all on the, you know, it's all digital now, and it's on
Right.
VoIP. And if you notice, by the way, on the town telephones, which is on page 15 as well, moved up to 45,000. We are changing vendors on the phone system, and the new phone is being installed any day now. We also cutting the amount of phone lines we have. So we have 25 phone lines in town hall. We've had 25 phone lines in town hall since before there were cell phones. So the actual, and before email. And so the amount of phone calls that we're seeing coming through is certainly down. But the only way to track to see whether we're using all 25 lines is to start killing them. So in the new phone setup, I've opted for 15 phone lines, but the ability to grab 5 on demand, up to 5 on demand. There's a pro and a con to that. So for example, on the very last day of the month, somebody picks up and uses the 16th phone line, I get whacked for the whole phone line for 30 days prior. On the other side of the coin, if we don't use any of those, and I can track the use of the phone lines. So right now, I pick up the phone, I always get a line. I'd like to go to a point where I find out where that sweet spot is about not getting a line. So I'm gonna knock it down to, you know, the 20 max, then I'm gonna knock it down further and further till I find that spot. And I can always change it again.
That's how many people would have to be on the phone at the same exact time,
Incoming and
right?
outgoing. And previously, under the old phone system, if I call from my office to the town accountant's office, I'm using 2 phone lines.
Okay.
Under the new system,
It's like-
I'm not using any phone
Yeah.
line.
Right.
And if the schools adopt to go over to the system, then I could literally call into a classroom without using a phone line. So, you know, right now we're moving Council on Aging, DPW, Town Hall, Police, and Fire all into the same system. So when I call John on his office phone, you're not using a phone line. And those phone lines would all be shared between those departments. So I'm cutting it more than 25 down to 15. I'm cutting their phone lines out as well. So we're gonna find out.
Why don't we include the library in that?
The library's not on the same phone system, and their server isn't on the same system. We'll work to include the library going forward. Library's sort of been an outlier here, and we need to bring them into the family.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I had the photocopy discussion.
it's always the-
I brought up the photocopies,
Always the
because,
case.
again,
Always the
they have,
library's the outlier.
yeah.
Well, the library's photocopiers, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're on a sales contract, which is the library network, which I couldn't take advantage of as the town hall.
Right.
And they get a different
But
deal.
I don't know if that's for the photocopiers as well. I didn't get the impression it was for the photocopiers. Because I specifically asked,
When Chris comes in, we'll grill him.
yeah,
But moving their
Yeah.
server into the town server, this is gonna be necessary in the
Yeah,
future.
I agree.
Yeah. So, going forward, computers, telephones, workers' comp, I've raised the workers' comp number in the employee benefits. Where's workers' comp?
We're still on 15, under townwide insurance.
Oh, thank you. We've got a very poor loss record right at the moment, so I figure I'm gonna get whacked next year. So I raised that 10%. So our mod factor is gonna be, I think, dramatically hit, so we'll see.
Do you know what the current mod is right now?
Actually, we were actually down last year to like a 0.6, so it was really low, but I think we're gonna.
Close to, getting close to that one?
I had 2 major claims,
Okay.
so we're gonna get whacked.
And I know you're doing training in one area quite heavily, and I'm assuming in the other area, I can only guess where it is, but
Yes.
we're doing active training to
Yes, we are.
reduce that.
Yes, actually, flat out, the neat part about it is we get credits for working on loss prevention.
That's right, you told me that, yep.
The best way to describe it is we pay for our insurance and we get our money back if we're good, if we play by the rules. And we got last week over $12,500 back for loss prevention activities, majority of which came out of the police department. But the greatest savings on workers' comp comes out of the DPW. So we're gonna be working on loss prevention programs in DPW, which includes chainsaw training, climbing, hoisting, et cetera, things where you can really, really get hurt and be out for a long, long time. So, townwide insurance, I think we're gonna be modestly increased this year. This is still this will be Maya's second year, and they will be reasonably competitive, I would believe, in checking with other town administrators who've already got in their numbers. I won't get my numbers until February 1st for sure, but I'm forecasting 3%, which is modest.
And I know you weren't here when that was renegotiated
Mm.
last year, but I'm just, and I guess just seeing it now, I'm surprised that going through a renegotiation that it increased by almost $15,000 by selecting a new vendor.
I don't have the answers for you on that. I wasn't here, I'm only aware after the fact.
Right.
And I've gotten a little bit of fallout. But the other problem would be the total coverage and what is coverage and how it's covered.
Could we find that out?
But
You-
we'll do it off camera.
Okay.
Okay. Also, townwide gasoline is on my agenda. I figure the price of gas is going up, but this may have to come back and be readjusted if the governor's tax goes through. So we'll have to look at that very carefully. Now, if somebody could tell me what a field driver is, I'd be thrilled. Okay, fence viewer, I know what a fence viewer is, so that's no
Any idea what page you're on now?
Sorry?
Any idea what page you're on?
The obscure items?
Hold on.
Yeah, we had to find the obscure page. Hold on.
I'm relying on you.
Wiring, sealer of weights and measures, civil defense, animal control, field inspector, fence inspector.
The after animal control?
It's only $100.
Field inspector, yeah, it's only $100, page 25.
That was 25.
I've
But
level
we've not,
funded it,
but we've not spent
but
any.
I have no idea what it is.
And we didn't spend any on it.
So, I mean, I think, to be honest with you, we could easily zero it and see what happens. The same, the
Maybe
fence
ask Phyllis to
inspector,
get
I
us
don't
a
even know
his
who the fence
$25.
inspector is.
And it's
So,
Can we ask the building just to cover that?
I'll tell you what we should probably do is drop those each to $1.
Well, let's get.
And then that leaves the line open for budget purposes, if I need to transfer money in to pay somebody.
Yeah, we also asked Phyllis for the payment history.
Yeah.
And see what's in there.
Yeah. Hearings officer, we've already talked about. Animal control, both the animal
Back up.
inspector and the animal control. You're gonna hear this from the police chief, because I
25.
transferred that responsibility. Did you find it?
Yep,
Yes.
25.
I have level funded both budgets, because we don't know is the answer to the question. We now have somebody doing the job, and she's brand new, and she's scheduled for 16 hours a week, and she's doing both jobs. So right at the moment, we're trying to determine whether we're gonna need to pay more time to get the job done, or whether she can get the job done in 16 hours. So what we're planning on doing is just level funding those numbers and then making an adjustment, because it's too soon to determine where we're gonna be at the end of the year. So we'll readjust next year's budget based on the actual that we have this year.
Are we gonna keep it in its own line item? We're not gonna move it under police, correct?
we're gonna keep it as their own line item, but that will shift the budget responsibility to the police chief.
Okay.
So it won't be in my budgets anymore. So I think that's all I have on my plate.
That was 25.
Page 6 was the town council. I don't know that
Town
we.
council, thank you.
Skip that.
I'm trying to bring town council price into line. In the absence of the town administrator, it was too common for a department head to just pick up the phone, and I don't think that they understood that the minute you picked up the phone and said, "Hey, Laura, how are you today? How are the kids?" that the meter's running. So, yeah. So what I have done is instituted, if you want to talk to town council, fine, but give me a one-page, what's the problem? What's the question? And what possible answers from town council are you looking for on just one page? And then we email it to town council and let them respond, as opposed to picking up the phone and trying to hunt them down and don't know where they are, and, you know, the meter's running while we're pulling over the car to write things down. We give them the opportunity, and to be fair, they'll probably give us a much better answer. So, and also sometimes in the process of writing up what the problem is and what we want from town council, they answer their own question. So hopefully the idea is to move away from this kind of expense. Not that I love our town council, but I'd like to spend less.
Agreed.
Good. Any other questions?
What's missing from your budget that you'd like in your budget?
Thank you.
Luncheons?
There's a,
Finance committee, we'll do our budget next week.
I already did your budget.
Wait a minute.
I
didn't see anything.
You wanna look at it? That's on page 2.
Yep.
You didn't see it because it's not there.
Is it the nameplates?
Darn it.
So
Oh, it was so small, I missed it.
right at the moment, I
one
would like to
little
move
line.
your reserve fund up to about 200,000. I think we're cutting it a little, if we start to cut the budgets and ask the department heads to budget realistically, our obligation is to be there to help them when it didn't quite go the way they had hoped. So we want to put a little more money into your reserve so that you can reach back and help somebody who cut their budget a little further than they perhaps should have. And
If we
don't
cut
wanna-
Melissa's 46,000 down and
Right,
the
Right.
legit need.
you need to be able to put it back
You
or
had,
add something
you
to it.
had a number that you typically like to keep it
Like
in.
0.5% of the
Ha-
budget. So, I would like to come in, 0.5% of the total budget. So, and that depends upon how close you shave the budget. In other words, if you really want to ask the departments to come in like no more than last year or no more with, if you literally did have a 2% budget, I think you're asking for trouble because it's not realistic. And so you need to put more in reserve to bail them out when they get into trouble. Plus, we really also want to encourage them, not at the end of the year to go on a Christmas shopping spree. We want them to be able to feel comfortable to turn in money that they did not spend legitimately, but know that if there's something that, next year they didn't plan on or cost a little more, that the finance committee stands ready to help them.
Well,
This promotes truth in budget.
we heard tonight when they said, everyone said, don't ever cut a position, because you'll
Yeah.
never get it back.
Right.
And that's,
So you need to develop a
Right.
certain amount of trust. If we get to that trust level I want you to get to, you'll get them coming in and saying, we're gonna cut somebody back a little
Mhm.
bit, because they're not needed at this moment. Because they're gonna trust you to be there when it goes the other way. So, and you'll also get them voluntarily raising their hand and say, hey, cut my budget over here because I didn't need it this next year, but I might need it next year. Fine.
right.
One of the great thrills of the Jimmy Carter years was zero-based budgeting. I know you're all too young for that. But where if you didn't spend the money, you never got it back. Well, all that meant was we went out and spent the money at the end of the year in June, just to make sure we didn't turn a dime back. And then you'd open up the supply closet and it'd be an ability to stock staples. So, I don't want to do that. I want them to feel comfortable that you'll back them up when there's an issue. So,
Makes sense.
and if I could actually put 250 at that number, I would, but let's see where the budget falls. Okay, sorry, I did your expense budget, so that will give you the opportunity to go to the training again, if they do it at Bridgewater. If not, they'll probably do it at Framingham, but they do one every year, and they do tend to scale. So in other words, if you've been to last year's, you go to the 102 class and not the 101 class. And then also, there's an association of finance committees, and I'd strongly recommend somebody to go to that. So you meet your peers, and not just from the surrounding neighborhood, but from across the state. That's when you learn. So, sorry. All right. What else do we need to talk about? Oh, what else Diane wanted to do? Okay, yes, let me turn to my page. One of the things that I was quite surprised in the size of a budget and the size of a community, that the community did not have a finance director. Someone that was above the assessor, the treasurer collector, and the accountant, that created the financial direction of the town, that did the special projects like migrating software from one accounting package to another, and gave you financial policies that said, okay, I've got my head up out of the hole, and I can see the future, and we need to be looking at a formula that establishes what our debt capacity is, or what our strategic plan is for the financing of debt. From the conversation you had earlier with the treasurer collector was, we don't know if we're gonna need to finance that short-term debt that we took out last June, or whether we're gonna need to just pay it off and get rid of it. If you had a finance director, this decision would already be done. So I'm filling in, and among my other hats, to look at that and work with her and the town accountant about where do you think we'll be by next June? Will we need to bond it, or will we be able to pay it straight out? And a lot will depend upon where we go from here. What I'm trying to build in this budget and in this town meeting is the ability not to borrow. So, in fact, if I can do it, to put money into stabilization, or to cash out that temporary bond so that we don't have more borrowing. If you're a straight accountant and you look at the financial statement, then you know we have tremendous debt capacity. The problem is when you borrow that much, you have to pay it. And so it's the same old, same old. You can borrow $100,000 on your line of credit for your house, but you still have to pay that monthly. And when you pay it monthly, you're taking it out of your operating funds. So at a certain point, we want some level of debt capacity, we want some level of debt payment every year, but I want to know where that sweet spot is. And again, that's a finance director's job, to continually look down what's coming off, what could go on. And that strategy is what you have the finance director for. So we're going to be looking at that in the future, sooner than later. I want to put interns into the budget, because there's two programs I'd like to adopt. In talking to other town administrators of similarly sized towns, they're putting on assistant town administrators. I'd rather not go in that direction. I think the smarter way to do it would be to pay for service, or pick up consultants for areas I've got specific needs and requirements in. Right now, I need some help in the HR department, maybe developing a wage and classification plan, looking at the pay equity issue that we got hit with last November. We have no job descriptions, or not up-to-date job descriptions in the departments, so all of those have to be done. So rather than to hire additional overhead in a person, where I now have to pick up their health insurance and their retirement, my goal would be to pick up, a consultant for a specific project. Do this one thing. Capital plan that's detailed. So my goal would be to put some money into the budget to pay for those, as opposed to hiring somebody. To hire the expert in that field and that requirement, and keep doing it that way. I really would like to move forward the master plan for the town, and I think one of the ways you can do it is hire a consulting firm to come in and write the master plan. And basically, they're writing a master plan for a community they know nothing about, and they're relying on just simply the stories that we tell them and the things that we think we would like, without any depth of what the history was, or even the achievability of such a plan. So my first step with creating a master plan is to go to the top 5 departments, the biggest departments, and say, where are you gonna be in 10 years? Let's look at the next 10 years and try to, you're the expert in your department, you have the history of your department, where do you wanna be in 10 years? Let's get that together first. Perhaps, as we go down the line and get that information together, we can hire a part-time town planner whose job will, among other things, be the person who brings the master plan together.
Does East Bridgewater ever have one?
No.
Tried.
Yeah.
I think they tried a while ago.
But the town planner is another issue that, I'm sort of surprised. When I was being interviewed for the job, as Laura remembers, they were concerned about our downtown. But there's several problems here. No sewer there, no master plan, no Community Preservation Act, so no source of money to do much with, and nobody that can write a community development grant. So those are things that would hold us back from actually looking at that in a more clinical way. Again, special projects, hire that one expertise. So those are the things that I would like to look at. What does an internship cost? What would I say, 6,000?
I think we said $6,000, yeah.
What would I fund the special projects account at? Whatever I can afford. So, a wage and classification studies about $20,000 to $25,000. Pay equity, I don't know yet. I've got a price quote out to see how much work is involved in that. I'm hoping not much.
That shouldn't be much, yeah.
But every time I've said it's not much, it comes in and
Well,
floors me.
That's some-
We did a lot of work at my company regarding pay equity and job descriptions and.
Well, if you bundle it together as a big
Yeah.
overview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the person who writes the job descriptions that I am aware of, in municipal world, is not capable, in my opinion, of doing the pay equity. In addition, I don't want just a regular consultant doing pay equity. So, because there are legal ramifications. So I want a different, in the private side, you can do what you suggest.
Yeah.
Public side, it's a little different. So those are some things I wanna be working into my budget if we can, when we get to the final end of the budget, we've got a little flexibility, this is where I'd like to put some money and some time.
So would you be looking at adding a finance director in 2021?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. We might be able to, first of all, it's very difficult right now to get town accountants, town treasurer collectors, and finance
To get
directors.
accountants in general.
What's that?
It's difficult to get accountants in general, let alone
Correct.
for
And municipal accounting.
a whole different world.
It's way different, and I could laugh when some of my peers say, well, I wanna hire a CPA. Why? That isn't gonna help you here. But they think, CPA is the way to go. We need the state college system, for example, to start working on a minor in municipal finance, so we can get a certificate program, so people can go get trained. Right now, we don't have a farm league. So people who come in as town treasurers or collectors come, generally speaking, out of the banking world, and they drown in their first 2 years because they don't know what the heck they're doing. And so you have to hire additional help to get them through and to train them. And one thing I admire greatly about Melissa is her ability to say, I need some help here. I don't understand this. And I can work with that. If you tell me where you got a problem, I can help you solve that problem. And she has been forthcoming, and it's been just a relief to know, you need some help, we'll get you some help, and not wait until you have it blowing up, So she's been great, and we might be able to grow our internal talent to fill that position gradually. But it's not my desire just to increase headcount for the hell of it. I have to see a value and a return on that investment. And if
And
I
they
could
might
do
be-
it
yeah.
slowly over time, great. But I think that this world is just getting more complex on the financial side, not easier, not simple. And for example, I've been working with Melissa on our banks. We have several banks. I think we could have less banks, and I think we could get more service out of the banks we do have. And one of the reasons that we hold money. It's a tide comes in, the tide goes out, when the tax bills come in, when the tax bills go out. So I could be sitting on literally $1 million, and while this bank is a quarter of a point higher, so instead of going to the bank you're currently dealing with, they just go open an account over there. Well, why don't you go back to the account, the bank you're working with, and say, I'll give you $1 million, but raise your rate by another quarter point? Yes or no, before you open up with another bank. So we're working on that. Last week, Melissa and I went to a meeting with a bank that might be interested in handling our Dropbox, which would be a little less expensive than what we're currently using, less fees, faster turnaround, less aggravation. So, and then she's very progressive. We have an interesting, which I'm gonna deal with tomorrow. If you're gonna sell your house, you have to have a smoke detector inspection, and you have to have your final meter reading. The fire department will take a check, the water department won't. You gotta pay cash. So.
Cash?
Cash.
Concerning.
Cash.
Very concerning. Nobody takes cash.
Cash. So, well, actually, here's what's even worse. You have to come to town hall, pay the cash, take the receipt.
Ugh.
Okay? And the problem is, I'm sure in the past what happened was somebody's check bounced, and when you're on the final meter read, you're going to your closing, the closing's done, who do we go back to when the check bounces? So, it's cash. So you have to pay that in cash so that we don't get stuck holding that bill. Smoke detector, you still have plenty of time to go back, and, you know, check bounces, I'm surprised that we have as many checks as we bounce, but we had 3 smoke detector checks bounced in the last month, so it
Christmas time.
happens.
Yeah.
So now is the problem, and you're gonna have to come to town hall, pay cash, get the receipt, then show it to the inspector. So we're gonna work on those issues tomorrow with the department heads and say, okay,
Credit card.
what do we wanna
Yeah, I
do?
was gonna say, can't we
Credit
just
card's a
set that?
problem.
Why?
Under Massachusetts law, we can't accept less than the bill. So in other words, you have a $100 water bill. $100 has to go into the town accounts.
Doesn't equate to with your fees and
The
such.
fees. So if you've ever noticed online, you can pay your tax bill with a credit card, but the credit card fee will choke a horse. And the reason for that is all the merchant fees, the transaction fee goes to the actual user of the card, not the town. Because I have to have that
Right.
dollar amount in the bank.
So this can't
So-
go with like the online permitting and stuff, the system
Online
that we're doing
permitting
for
is gonna be
that?
the same problem, you know, but we can do an EFT. So
That's what I do on
Yeah,
my
Yeah,
own.
you
ACH.
use like your routing
maybe
number
you can
and,
explain the difference between them, but basically they
No,
reach
I
into your
know.
checking account and take the money. But if I go out with the, you know, the Square or.
There's still a fee on that
EP,
too.
you know.
It's a small fee, but.
Yeah, but the EFT and ACH is 25 cents.
True.
It's cheaper than putting a stamp on your
It is.
envelope. It's probably cheaper than driving to town hall, unless you're coming by here for other reasons.
Right.
And it's how I pay my bills with the
Yeah.
town. It's so much easier. However, I can't do that with the Square or with the PayPal swipe thing. And so sending them out with the machine and say, you know, we'll just swipe your credit card, there we go, thing. The credit card fee is gonna be, on a $200 transaction, will be $12.50. And I don't know if people are willing to do that. The alternative is you have to drive to town hall, pay it, and then take your receipt
system
back and
seems so
show
broken.
them.
yeah.
Mr. Bank.
So we're gonna try to work that out. It's one of the little small difficulties of, you know, and of course, some of it I think like on the smoke detectors, could that be a cost of doing business? Occasionally getting stuck with a bad check, you know? Water meter readings, it's the
$25,
final
right? It's
reading,
not
there
like
could be a
thousands.
little more
But if you
money.
could have them like go online, like so say they know they need a fire, the smoke
Do the
detector.
ACH.
Could they go on and do a
Yeah.
ACH?
Right, so we're gonna work through that issue
Yeah.
tomorrow. And I stuck my foot in it because John was telling me about it, and I said, well, I don't want these guys in the field handling cash. And John agreed, so we changed the policy, we never told Melissa. So, I got a chewing on that one. So, we'll try to resolve that tomorrow, but, you know, it's one of the things you don't have a problem in the private world, because you know, it's
You
cost
just
of
pay
doing
the fees.
business and shows up on your bottom line. But Massachusetts, if you're gonna pay your taxes, I need that dollar amount, not minus your credit card fees. So,
Right.
all right, what else did I babble on about that you needed? Those are the things that are missing from my budget that I would really like to include in the future. So you might see an amended budget as we come closer to the bottom line. A lot depends upon where we are.
And one of the things Brian and I were talking about is, you know, because I don't think there's anything there that we would probably disagree with. I think it's all, but how you do it, I think makes a
Right.
big difference. You know, so as, you know, as the organization, I call it the personnel attrition through natural attrition through reorganization, it might be a little easier for us to understand that too. And similarly on the, you know, he kind of rattled off kind of the projects list, to kind of look at it, you know, over a several-year plan, because I think it does, at this point, adding heads is not,
Well, it's not a good way to do it.
it's just not a good way to do it, yeah. And I think I agree that, you know, consulting is probably, consulting
Makes
on a
a lot of
project,
sense.
it does make a lot of sense, and it's probably
Well,
the
you-
better way to go.
Instead of being jack of all trades, master of none, I get the master
Yeah.
for that one project, and I'm not buying his retirement or his health insurance. So, and there's some really good people out there that can do it. And I want to do a little human resource training for my department heads and supervisors. So I contacted a company that does this, and they said, oh, no problem, we only charge $2,000 a day.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, I was thinking maybe like $500 for the 2 classes, you know? So, I did actually find somebody that will teach the classes, so, for less money. And, so we'll use that one. And I don't want an all-day class for some of these things.
Yeah.
You know, how to do progressive discipline, how to write a performance evaluation, how to create a performance improvement plan. Those are like maybe 2 hours, and maybe combined they're 2 hours, so I don't wanna pay $2,000, so.
Good. Any questions on the Board of Selectmen? Nope.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
No
Any
minutes.
minutes, Jill?
No, it's only last week though that
Yeah.
we're not
Don't worry,
behind.
we're not judging. Especially not.
None.
Question.
No, we needed the minutes last week. We had
We got the
time filler there.
Going back and forth with Laura tonight, I wanted to print more than she wanted me to print, and, which I appreciate. How do you want to be updated? How, do you want me to email everything? Do you want to print your own? Do you want me to come prepared? What
I
would you
thi-
like?
So, for the budget presentations, I personally think, I don't think we need to keep, what I don't want to do is I don't want to have like a new one of
Yeah.
these every day, because we've done that, and that's just not what we need. I think this is, we'll start to get some updates, but I think we want to wait until we get through all of the budget presentations, get the updates kind of all in, and then we'll get a new one. I think we can all agree we can work off this.
I
But
can put a current one up on the website.
But it shouldn't be any,
It doesn't even
this
need
is
to be
113, I mean, this
password
is current.
Yeah.
So I think we're fine with this for a while. I do like, and I don't know if you guys agree, that if I do have an Excel spreadsheet with the detail on it, that I think that's, I like having that, because I like to
Yeah.
see what their explanations are.
Yeah, because they're more, and their department heads are more familiar with
Yeah.
that one, because
Right.
that's usually what they.
Do we need to print them out, or will everybody kind of, how do you want to do
I
it?
prefer to print my own.
Okay,
I don't think the town needs to.
yeah.
I don't have a printer, so if I'm
Maybe
at a
you could
client, if
print
someone will
one
print
copy
mine
budget.
for me within the
Yeah,
group,
so
then that's.
I can coordinate then who needs
Yeah,
for,
that's fine.
for each meeting.
Yeah.
But
We don't-
I'm gonna ask everybody just to kind of hold on to and bring with their master, and we'll just work off this for a while. I just think I just don't want
I don't
7,000
really have
copies
any
of it.
problem putting it up on the town administrator's page
Yeah,
or the committee's page.
yeah. Well, I think once we get some substantial
Sure.
updates, then we'll absolutely share it by email. But, let's wait until we get some, so we're not 7,000 versions in.
And then I usually do the update on where we are budget to actual, the sheets I gave you last week, they were this big. I don't want to print those, so I will just send them an email.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so, Probably should have put the next meeting on the agenda. I just lost my next week. Next
Tomorrow,
Tuesday,
right.
a week from tomorrow, so next Tuesday, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, the 21st, at 6 PM, and we'll be doing, oh yeah, we'll be doing fire and police departments, so that will be a long one.
Drink some coffee.
Who's bringing the box of Joe?
That will do.
I know I could probably make it sometime before the end of the
You
meeting.
probably could.
Yeah, probably could.
Absolutely. Good, good.
Live stream you in.
Any other questions, or otherwise I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn at 7:50.
Second,
Kevin.
Kevin, I can hear.
So I just want to check.
Quiet over there.
A couple of issues.
Okay.